I still remember the cold sting on my skin when the police officer grabbed my wrist. It was a normal Thursday morning, and I was at my desk in First Oak Community Bank, typing reports. Then the glass doors burst open. Two officers marched straight toward me, like they already knew my name. "Juliet John," one of them called. I nodded, confused. "You're under arrest for accessing a restricted account and stealing $8,000. My stomach dropped. "What? I don't even have access to that system," I cried, my voice shaking. Everyone stared. Phones stopped buzzing. Chairs froze. And the worst part, Mara Benson, my best friend of 10 years and the person who got me this job, stood up slowly with her hand over her mouth. She looked shocked. Too shocked. Like she had practiced it. "Juliet, tell me this isn't real," she whispered. The officers pulled up a tablet and showed security footage of someone who looked exactly like me tapping into the system after hours. My heart pounded. "That's not me. The hair, the walk, that isn't me." But nobody listened. The entire bank stared as I was dragged past them. And when I looked back, Mara didn't meet my eyes. That was the moment I knew. Someone took everything from me on purpose. The police station smelled like old paper and cold metal, and the questioning room felt too small for my fear. I sat with my hands cuffed, whispering to myself, "Stay calm, just explain." But every time I spoke, the detective sighed like I was wasting his time. "Juliet, John," he said, leaning back. "Your login was used, your badge was used, your passcode was used. Do you expect me to believe someone else did this?" "Yes," I said, my voice cracking. "Someone set me up." He dropped a printed screenshot on the table. The timestamps showed my access. But I knew I wasn't even in the building that night. I was with Mara, watching movies at her place. But she never spoke up. She never came to the station. She never even texted. That silence hurt worse than the cuffs. Hours later, they let me out on bail. Money that wiped out my small savings. When I walked outside, I saw reporters waiting. Someone had leaked my arrest. My name was already everywhere. I called Mara again. No answer. By the time I got home, the bank had emailed me. I was suspended until further notice. My chest tightened. My legs felt weak. It wasn't just a setup. It was a full attack. The next morning, I went straight to Mara's apartment. I needed answers. When she opened the door, her eyes were red like she had been crying all night. But she didn't let me inside. "Julie, I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You could start with the truth," I said, keeping my voice steady, even though my hands were shaking. "You know, I was with you that night. You know I didn't go to the bank." She stepped outside and shut the door behind her, like she didn't want me touching her furniture. "I don't remember everything from that night. You left early, remember? Maybe you went back." I stared at her, stunned. "I slept on your couch. You woke me up with breakfast." Her jaw tightened. "I don't think that happened." It felt like she slapped me. She suddenly crossed her arms. "Look, they said the camera shows you. What do you want me to do? Lie for you?" "Lie? I'm asking you to tell the truth." Her eyes darted away. "Maybe this is something you got mixed up in. I don't want problems with the bank." That sentence broke the ground under me. When I walked away, Mara didn't call after me. She didn't even breathe loud. In that moment, the betrayal settled in my chest, like ice. I thought losing my friend hurt, but the world proved it could hurt more. That same afternoon, I received a text from my landlord. "Due to legal concerns, your lease will not be renewed. You have 30 days to vacate." My knees buckled. Legal concerns? They acted like I was a criminal. I called, but he said he didn't want trouble with stolen money. Stolen money. The two words followed me everywhere. By evening, HR at the bank called, "Your employment is terminated." Just like that. No investigation, no hearing, no chance. I sank onto my couch, holding my head. This can't be real, I whispered. Someone wants my life gone. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from co-workers. Some asked if it was true. Some sent fake sorry texts. Others just gossiped. But one message froze my blood. From an unknown number. Stay quiet, accept it, you won't win. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Who was that? Why were they so confident? Then I thought of the footage. The person who looked like me. Someone didn't just steal money. They stole my identity. I didn't know how yet, but I felt it deep inside. This wasn't random. This was planned. And the first crack of truth was about to show. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fake me in the grainy footage. So I opened my laptop and watched the video again, pausing at every frame the detective sent me. At first, it looked exactly like me. Same height, same build, same hairstyle. But the more I stared, the more something felt wrong. The walk, the strange tilt of the head, the slight delay when the person swiped the badge. Tiny things most people wouldn't notice. But I noticed. Then something else caught my eye. The bracelet, a thin silver chain with a small heart charm. I didn't own anything like that. I zoomed in until the pixels blurred, but the charm was still clear enough. Someone dressed like me. Someone wearing a bracelet I'd never wear. Someone who had my badge. My stomach twisted. Who had access to my stuff? I kept my badge in my bag at work. My bag was always at my desk, and my desk was right beside Mara's. My heart pounded faster. Could she? No, she wouldn't do that. But the thought didn't let me go. I typed silver heart charm bracelet into my photo gallery search. My hands trembled when a picture came up. Mara was wearing the exact same bracelet. My throat tightened as I opened the old picture. It was from 2 months earlier. Mara and I at a cafe, laughing, her wrist lifted while she showed off her birthday gift to herself. That same silver heart bracelet. She loved it so much she wore it every day. So why was someone wearing it in the footage? My pulse quickened. Was it her? Was she the one pretending to be me? But no, Mara and I didn't look that much alike. Not enough for the camera to mistake her for me. But what if it wasn't Mara pretending? What if she gave the bracelet to someone else? I thought about the people close to her. Her cousin Lena, who always joked that Mara and I looked like sisters. Or her boyfriend, who always stayed quiet when I was around. Or maybe someone I didn't know at all. The more I imagined it, the more sick I felt. I needed to talk to Mara again. But when I got to her apartment, she didn't answer. Her lights were off. The hallway felt colder than usual. As I headed back downstairs, her neighbor peeked out. Looking for Mara? She moved out this morning. Truck came at 8 a.m. I froze. She moved? Yep. Looked in a hurry too. My breath caught. Why would she vanish the moment I found a clue? I couldn't stop shaking as I walked back to my car. Mara moving away didn't feel normal. It felt like she was running. From me. From something she knew I was close to seeing. But I needed proof, not fear. I drove to the bank, even though I wasn't allowed near it anymore. I parked across the street watching people move in and out like nothing ever happened. That's when I saw someone coming out the side door, a woman wearing a hoodie pulled low. But something about her build, her walk, made my heart jump. She looked like me. Same height, same shoulders. I leaned forward in my seat. Then she turned slightly and the streetlight caught her wrist, a silver heart bracelet. My breath stopped in my chest. She stepped into a black sedan and drove off fast. I memorized the last 4 numbers on the plate. I didn't follow her. I knew better. Instead, I called the station and asked to speak to the detective on my case. He didn't answer. But I didn't need him. If someone could copy me this perfectly, it meant they had access to my personal things, my movements, maybe even my apartment. My phone buzzed with a text from the unknown number again. Stop looking. I whispered, voice shaking. No, you picked the wrong girl. I drove home fast, my hands sweating on the steering wheel. When I reached my apartment, everything felt too quiet. Even the hallway lights seemed dimmer. Inside, nothing looked touched. Until I walked to my bedroom. My closet door was slightly open. I never leave it open. My heart hammered as I pulled it wider. My clothes were still there, but something felt off. One of my jackets was missing. A simple black one I wore all the time. Who would take that? Then I checked my vanity. My hairbrush was gone. So was one of my half-used lip glosses. Things someone would need if they wanted to look like me. I sank onto my bed, breathing fast. They were here, I whispered, inside my home. I called 911 immediately. Officers came, checked for forced entry, and found nothing. Maybe you misplaced the items, one said. I didn't. Someone is copying me. Someone is pretending to be me. They exchanged looks, the kind people give when they don't believe you. When they left, the silence felt heavy again. I went to the mirror and stared at my reflection. My face, my hair, my eyes. Then a chilling thought hit me hard. Someone wasn't just copying me. Someone was becoming me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room, with the lights on, clutching my laptop like a shield. If the police wouldn't help me, I had to help myself. First, I searched the license plate numbers I memorized. I didn't have full access to DMV records, but I found a forum where people discuss plate prefixes by district. The numbers matched a county 2 hours away, the same county Mara's cousin Lena lived in. A strange chill ran down my spine. Next, I searched Lena's name on social media. Her accounts were private, but her profile picture made my heart skip. We did look alike. Same skin tone, similar hair texture, same height range. But where I looked gentle, she looked sharper, harder. Then I saw a tagged picture from last year. Lena wearing the silver heart bracelet. My chest tightened. It wasn't Mara, it was Lena. And Mara knew. My hands shook as I scrolled deeper. A recent post, 3 weeks old, showed Lena standing in front of a black sedan. The same one I saw outside the bank. I whispered, "Why would she do this to me?" Right then, another text came from the unknown number. Last warning. This time, I didn't panic. This time, I smiled a little, because now I had a thread to pull. And once you pull one thread, the whole thing can come loose. By morning, I had made a decision. If Lena framed me, I needed to know why. People don't destroy lives for no reason. There had to be something bigger behind this. So I drove to the county where she lived. 2 hours of tight roads and tight thoughts. My heart pounded the whole time. But there was fire in it now, not fear. When I reached her neighborhood, I parked down the street and watched her apartment building. It was quiet, too quiet. As I sat there, I pulled up all the notes I had made. Screenshots, timestamps, photos. I organized them like puzzle pieces. My missing jacket, her bracelet, the car, the security footage, the fact that Mara moved suddenly. Everything pointed to a plan, a long plan, but one thing still confused me. Why the money? Why $8,000? Why risk so much? Then I remembered something Mara once said casually, months ago. Like it didn't matter. Lena's drowning in debt. She always asked me for help. Debt, money, a fake identity. A way out. Suddenly, it clicked. She didn't steal $8,000. She stole herself a new life and tried to make me take the fall. My chest tightened as Lena's car pulled into the parking lot. This was it. The start of taking everything back. Quietly. I sat low in my car as Lena stepped out of her sedan. She moved with the same sharp walk I saw in the security footage. Same height, same build, same bracelet. A wave of anger washed over me, but I held it in. If I rushed now, I'd lose everything. Lena unlocked her apartment door, looking around as if she expected someone to follow. My breath caught. Did she know I was close? After she went inside, I waited 10 minutes, then quietly followed. The hallway smelled like old carpet and dust. I stood at her door and listened, papers rustling, boxes shifting, like she was packing. Then I heard her voice through the door. "We need to leave soon. She's getting too close." My heart jumped. She, me. Another voice, softer, Mara. "She won't find out. She's too scared to fight back." Their words stabbed me. My best friend of 10 years, the person I trusted with everything. She wasn't just covering Lena's crime, she was part of it. I felt my breath shake. I pressed my ear closer. "We transfer the money tonight," Lena said. "Then we disappear." That was the moment I decided I wasn't running anymore. Not from them, not from anyone. I walked back to my car with my mind racing. They were leaving tonight. That meant I had only hours to stop them. But I couldn't go to the police. They already saw me as the thief. I needed proof, real proof. I opened my notes app and started writing everything I heard. The plan to transfer the money, Mara working with Lena, the idea of disappearing. I timestamped it, added screenshots, added the license plate picture, added every tiny clue, even the stolen lip gloss. This wasn't just a plan anymore. It was a case. I sat there until my thoughts lined up like puzzle pieces. The only way to expose them was to catch them making the transfer in real time. If I got audio or video of them admitting everything, it would be enough to force a real investigation. My hands shook, but not from fear, from focus. I whispered to myself, "You took my job, my name, my home, but you won't take my future." The sun began to set, turning the parking lot gold. I glanced at Lena's window. Shadows moved inside. They were still packing. I started my car, mind set. I wasn't going after revenge with violence. Just truth. Truth loud enough to shatter every lie. The sky grew darker as I parked 2 streets away, close enough to watch, but far enough to stay unseen. From where I sat, I could see the glow of Lena's apartment window. At 9:14 p.m., the lights inside flickered. Someone walked past the window, Mara's shape. My stomach twisted. I waited until they left the building and approached Lena's sedan. They didn't get in. Instead, they walked down the street toward a small, dim cafe with tinted windows. It was mostly empty at night. I followed on foot, keeping distance. My heart beat loudly, but my steps stayed slow, calm. Inside the cafe, they sat in the back corner. I took a seat behind a divider wall, close enough to hear but unseen. I held my phone face down, recording audio. Lena spoke first. "Transfer everything. After tonight, Juliet John doesn't exist. She'll be too busy trying to prove she didn't steal anything." My throat tightened. Mara answered, voice low. She trusted me. I can't believe she still thinks I'm on her side. My eyes burned. I held my breath to keep quiet. The cafe owner turned off the music. The room became so silent I could hear every word they said. This was it. The moment they exposed themselves. I tapped the volume button on my phone, careful not to make a sound. The microphone captured their whispers clearly. Lena typed on her laptop hard enough for me to hear the clicks. "Accessing the account now, using Juliet's stolen badge number," she muttered. Each word felt like a nail in my chest. But every word was also proof. Mara sighed. "We just needed someone who looked like her. The cameras are too old to tell the difference." I clenched my fists. Lena chuckled softly. And taking her jacket was smart. It made the footage perfect. She'll never fix her life after this. My breath shook. They sounded so calm, so confident. Then Mara said something that almost made me stand up. She was supposed to leave hours before the break-in, but she slept on my couch. I had to keep drugging her tea until she knocked out. I dragged her to bed. My blood turned cold. Drugged. That's why the night felt blurry. Why I slept so deeply. I leaned my head against the wall, swallowing hard. I hated them. But I needed the recording more than I needed revenge. When Lena said, "Okay, money sent," I ended the recording quietly. I had them, finally. I slipped out of the cafe before they noticed. The night air hit my face like cold water, but I kept walking until I reached my car. Once inside, I locked the doors and let myself finally breathe. The hurt burned deep. Mara had sat across from me for years. Birthdays, secrets, fights, laughs. She held my hand through breakups. She cheered when I got the bank job. All that time, I never imagined she would stab my life open like this. I pressed play on my recording. Their voices filled my car. Cold, sharp, proud. Tears gathered in my eyes, but I wiped them away fast. I wasn't crying for them. I was crying for the Juliet who trusted too easily, the Juliet who believed the world was fair. I whispered, "They won't win." The next step was clear. I needed someone who would listen, someone who couldn't ignore hard evidence. My mind went to a name, Detective Harris, the officer who didn't believe me at first. He wasn't cruel, just tired. Maybe hearing this would change everything. I checked the time, almost 11 p.m. If I waited until morning, they might already be gone. So I started the engine and drove straight to the station. My silence was over. The police station was quiet at night. Lights dimmed. Only a few officers moving around. When I walked in, one of them glanced at me, eyes widening like he remembered my face from the arrest. "I need to speak to Detective Harris," I said firmly. My voice didn't shake this time. He hesitated. "It's late. This can't wait." He sighed and went to get him. After a minute, Harris walked out, tired eyes and a coffee in hand. When he saw me, his brow lifted. "Miss John, you shouldn't be here. I know, but you need to hear something." He started to speak, but I tapped my phone and hit play. Lena's voice filled the lobby. "Transfer everything. After tonight, Juliet John doesn't exist." Harris froze. Then Mara's voice. "She trusted me. I had to drug her tea so she wouldn't wake up." His eyes widened. He motioned for me to follow him to a private room. When the door closed, he said nothing, just listened. Every word, every confession. When the audio ended, he leaned forward, hands clasped. "Juliet. Why didn't you come sooner?" I bit my lip. "I tried." He stood. "We need a warrant. Tonight." For the first time since everything began, someone believed me. Within 30 minutes, the small, quiet station turned alive. Officers rushed around, phones ringing, orders flying. Detective Harris printed the warrant, signed by a judge who listened to the recording at home. "This is enough to arrest both women immediately," he said. Hearing that made my heart flip. Half relief, half fear. 2 patrol cars followed me to Lena's neighborhood. I stayed in the back of the third car, watching the streets blur past. My hands were cold, but my voice stayed calm when Harris asked, "You okay?" "No," I said honestly, "but I will be." When we reached the building, the officers spread out. Harris knocked loudly. "Police! Open up!" No answer. He knocked again. Harder. Finally, footsteps. The door cracked open and Mara's face appeared, pale and startled. "Officer, what's—" Harris pushed the door wider. "Where's Lena?" Before Mara could lie, Lena tried to slip out the back door, straight into the arms of 2 officers waiting there. She cursed loudly as they cuffed her. Mara began shaking. "Juliet, what did you do?" I stared at her. "What you did?" She dropped her head as Harris read their rights. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. Real fear. At the station, everything moved fast. Mara and Lena were separated into different rooms. Officers took their phones, their laptops, their bags. Detective Harris came to me with a folder. "We found something in Lena's car. You need to see it." Inside were copies of fake IDs. IDs with my picture, but Lena's name. IDs with my name, but her picture. even a fake employee badge with my number. My skin crawled. They were going to trade places, Harris nodded. They planned this for months. Next were photos. Lena in my stolen jacket. Lena brushing my stolen hairbrush. Lena practicing standing like me in front of a mirror. It felt unreal. Then he handed me a notebook they found in her bag. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside were lists. Watch Juliet's routine. Copy her voice tone. Check bank schedule. Learn her passwords from Mara. Blame her in case anything goes wrong. My breath caught. Harris spoke softly. You were targeted. This wasn't random. It was identity theft. Built from the inside. Identity theft. From my own friend. For a moment, I didn't know if I wanted to scream or collapse. But I didn't do either. I closed the notebook and whispered, I want my life back. Morning came before I realized how many hours had passed. I sat in a small room while officers moved around outside, filing evidence and typing reports. Detective Harris entered with a calm but serious look. We interviewed both women. I held my breath. Mara broke first, he said. She admitted everything. She said Lena was drowning in debt and convinced her the only way to escape was to borrow your life. Mara stole your badge. Lena practiced your look. They used you as the perfect cover. My chest ached. Why me? Mara said because you were too trusting. And because you wouldn't fight back. Hearing that burned deep, like fire under my ribs. What happens to them now? I asked. They're being charged with identity theft, fraud, conspiracy, and drugging you. The money transfer was tracked. It's all going into the case file. I closed my eyes. Relief washed over me like warm water, but it didn't erase the wounds. Harris continued, We'll clear your name with the bank today. They'll have no choice. I opened my eyes. Thank you for listening. He nodded. You did the hard part, Juliet. For the first time, I felt like the ground under me was steady again. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. The next step was the one I feared the most, returning to the bank, the place where everyone watched me get dragged away in handcuffs, the place I gave 2 years of my life to, the place that threw me aside like trash. The second things went wrong. Detective Harris walked beside me as we entered. Heads turned fast. Some people whispered. Some looked guilty. Some couldn't meet my eyes. We headed straight to the manager's office. Mr. Colton sat stiff in his chair when he saw me. Juliet. I didn't expect... Harris placed the folder on his desk. You fired an innocent woman based on zero internal investigation. Colton swallowed hard. We were misled. No, I cut in, my voice firm. You didn't listen. He opened the folder. Audio transcripts, photos, fake IDs, the bracelet. Everything. His face paled. I don't know what to say. Harris said, You'll officially reinstate her, compensate her, and clear her record. Colton nodded quickly. Yes, of course. I stood tall, stronger than I felt. And I want a written letter apologizing for the public arrest you allowed. He blinked but nodded again. Walking out of that office, I didn't feel powerless anymore. I felt like Juliet John again, the real one. I stepped outside the bank, into the bright morning sun. The air felt crisp, almost like it was celebrating with me. My name was finally cleared. The arrest records, the social media rumors, the gossip, it was all being corrected. Detective Harris walked beside me. You did the right thing. You stayed calm, collected evidence, and didn't let anger control you. I nodded but kept my eyes forward. I couldn't celebrate too loudly. Mara and Lena were still in custody, and the aftermath of their betrayal still weighed on me. I thought about Mara, my friend for 10 years. The betrayal hurt deeper than any loss of money or reputation. But I also knew something vital. She would face the consequences of her choices. And that knowledge was a strange relief. I walked past the lobby doors and felt the security cameras watching me. For the first time, they weren't symbols of injustice. They were reminders that I survived, that I reclaimed what was mine. For months, I had been silent, gathering proof, listening, observing, and that silence had been more powerful than screaming. Sometimes revenge isn't about cruelty. Sometimes it's about patience, precision, and letting the truth speak for you. Today, I let the world know I had won. Not with anger, but with control. The following weeks were a blur of calls, meetings, and slowly regaining stability. The bank reinstated me officially, updated all records, and even offered a promotion for handling a situation that exposed their security flaws. At home, I unpacked boxes and sorted through what I had lost. My apartment, my savings, they weren't fully restored, but it didn't feel as important anymore. I had something far more valuable: control over my life. I reached out to friends I had trusted, some of whom had doubted me. Not everyone returned, but that was okay. Betrayal teaches you who matters, and sometimes silence teaches you who stays. Mara and Lena were being processed through the court system. Hearing that they couldn't manipulate anyone else brought me quiet satisfaction. Justice doesn't always need vengeance. It can simply exist. I started writing again, my old hobby I had abandoned during work and betrayal. Words became my therapy, a way to rebuild confidence. I even helped the bank create new security protocols. It felt strange to use what I learned from their lies to make something better. I whispered to myself as I looked out my window, "You tried to take my life, but you only taught me how strong I really am." Months passed, and life grew quieter. My social media accounts were cleared, work relationships mended, and my reputation repaired, but the lessons lingered. I had learned that silence can be louder than shouting, that patience often carries more power than impulsive reactions. Lena and Mara had underestimated me. They thought betrayal and chaos would break me. Instead, it sharpened me. I kept small rituals, checking my accounts carefully, watching strangers' behavior when I introduced myself, and trusting instincts over words. One evening, I sat at my desk, staring at the bracelet Lena had used. Silver, delicate, heart-shaped, the same one Mara had handled in her hands to betray me. I picked it up, spun it around my fingers, and smiled faintly. It was a reminder, not of hurt, but of control. I whispered softly, "They taught me more than they ever knew." Every step they took, I was watching. Every lie, I recorded. Every betrayal, I learned from. The truth had spoken louder than any scream I could make, and it had reclaimed everything. I looked out the window. Beyond the city lights, life moved forward. And so did I. Weeks later, I returned to a quiet routine. Coffee in the morning, long walks downtown, work, writing. The trauma faded, replaced by clarity. I had survived. I had conquered. I bumped into a colleague who had whispered behind my back months ago. He looked embarrassed. I smiled politely. No need for confrontation. They had seen what silence and truth could do. Mara and Lena remained in custody. I heard about their court proceedings and occasional sentencing updates. Justice was slow, but it was inevitable. I found myself looking at the future differently. Money, jobs, and trust. They were tools, not anchors. I had power not because of position, but because I had patience, observation, and a clear mind. One evening, I sat by the river, the water reflecting the city lights. I traced my fingers through the cool waves, thinking of all I had endured. No words could capture it fully, no anger, no screams, only reflection, only quiet reclamation. I whispered to the wind, "I lost a lot, but I gained more. I lost trust, but I gained clarity. And no one can take that from me." It had been almost a year since the arrest, the betrayal, and the night of my near collapse. Sitting in my apartment, I held my bank ID in one hand and my laptop in the other. Everything was mine again, my name, my career, my confidence. I thought about Mara and Lena, not with hatred, but with understanding. People betray for fear, for money, for their own weaknesses, and sometimes they force others to grow faster than they want to. I smiled faintly, remembering the silver bracelet that had haunted me. It wasn't a symbol of betrayal anymore. It was a symbol of patience, strategy, and resilience. I whispered to myself, they took my life, my trust, my peace, but I took it back, silently, firmly, completely. For the first time in months, I felt free. The fear, the shame, the false accusations, they all faded. No yelling, no revenge, just truth, patience, and control. I leaned back, letting the city hum around me. The injustice had been real, the pain unforgettable, but my victory was quiet and absolute. And in that silence, I realized something important. Some battles aren't won with anger. They're won with quiet strength. And I was stronger than they ever imagined.